Have you ever caught yourself in a quiet moment, maybe as the sun was settling low behind your backyard trees, or when the house finally went still after a long day and whispered inwardly, "Is this really what life is meant to be?" Not in a dramatic way, not in despair, but in that soft, unsettling way that creeps in when everything seems fine, yet something inside still feels tired. You might have a roof over your head, food on the table, maybe even a little nest egg growing quietly. People may even look at your life and say, "You've made it," and yet there's a question that won't quite leave you alone. But at what cost? You're not alone in that feeling. There's a strange kind of exhaustion that comes not from struggling to survive, but from endlessly striving to prove, to accumulate, to be enough. And somewhere along the way, we stop asking, do I even enjoy the life I'm working so hard to maintain? What am I trading away for the things I think I need? Some people will tell you, this is just how life is. Others may say, no pain, no gain, just keep going. But what if there's another way to look at all this? What if the problem isn't that we're failing, but that we've been measuring success by the wrong things? Today, I'd like to invite you into a quiet exploration, not a lecture, not a fix your life in 5 steps formula, just a slow walk through a question that matters deeply. Are we focusing too much on building wealth and forgetting how to build a life? Together, we'll look at the silent trades we often make without noticing, the kind of success that robs us of presence, the myth of someday I'll enjoy life, and how that day never quite arrives. So take a deep breath. Let this be a space not for rushing, but for remembering, a place to ask, gently, honestly, what kind of life feels worth waking up to? Let's begin. Part 1. The quiet trade. Giving away what matters for what doesn't. There's a story I once heard from an old monk in Chiang Mai, the kind of story that doesn't shout, but lingers like the scent of jasmine in a quiet room. It was about a man who spent his entire life walking uphill. Every morning he'd rise before the sun, lace up his shoes and begin the slow climb up the mountain behind his village. The trail was steep and winding, but he believed that at the very top there would be something extraordinary waiting, success perhaps, a view worth all the years of sweat, a place where he could finally rest and say, "Now I've made it." But the old monk, who had watched this man for decades, noticed something strange. The man never stopped. Not once. Not to admire the orchids blooming beside the path. Not to share tea with the villagers waving from their porches. Not even when his own child called out, "Papa, can you stay home today?" The climb always came first. And so the monk asked him one day, "Tell me, friend, what is it you seek at the top that you haven't already passed by at the bottom?" The man paused, for the first time in years perhaps, but he didn't answer. That story stayed with me because in a way it's about all of us. We may not be climbing literal mountains, but how often do we give away the things that truly matter? Time, presence, connection, in exchange for things that only seem important. You see, life rarely takes from us in loud ways. It's not a thief that breaks in and steals your joy outright. It's more like a slow trade, one small choice at a time. You say yes to that extra project at work even though it means missing dinner with your spouse. You check your investments 10 times a day, but you haven't checked in with your own heart in weeks. You upgrade your phone, your car, your home, but not your ability to just sit quietly and breathe. It doesn't happen overnight. That's what makes it so dangerous. It's the kind of drift that feels harmless until one day you wake up successful by all accounts, but empty in a way you can't quite name. Buddhist teachings often remind us of the concept of upadana, clinging, and not just to physical things but to identities, ideas, roles we believe we must maintain. We cling to being the provider, the achiever, the one who has it all together, and slowly, quietly, we lose touch with the human underneath. Let me ask you, what are you currently clinging to that's costing you more than it's giving? I remember speaking to a woman in her 70s after a retreat. She said to me, with a voice half whisper, "I chased promotions like prizes. I thought if I could just make it one level higher, I'd finally feel like I'd arrived. But when I finally sat still long enough to feel, I realized I'd missed the actual party. My children were grown, my health had shifted, and my heart was lonely." She looked down for a moment and said, "I kept trading time for money, and by the time I realized time was the most precious thing, I didn't have much of it left." That, dear listener, is the quiet trade. The one we don't even realize we're making until the receipt comes due. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to question the terms of the deal. Because here's the thing, you don't have to give up your ambitions, your career, or the comforts you've worked hard for. But you do have to ask yourself, honestly and gently, am I sacrificing the very life I long for in the name of building it? There's a beautiful quote often attributed to the Buddha: "It is better to travel well than to arrive." In other words, how you live each day matters more than what you think you'll gain in the end. So perhaps instead of rushing to the top, we can begin by noticing the trail beneath our feet, the feel of the earth, the rhythm of our breath, the sound of our loved ones laughing in the kitchen, the warmth of tea in our hands. These aren't distractions from the climb, they are life itself, and in recognizing that, we arrive not at the summit, but within ourselves. Now, before we move forward, let's sit with one final question. What if the success you've been chasing was never the point, and the true wealth was the quiet joy already within reach? Let us carry that question into the next part of our journey, where we'll explore why we're so drawn to things we can measure, and why it's often the immeasurable that matters most. Part 2. What's easy to measure isn't always what truly matters. There's something oddly comforting about numbers, isn't there? They're clean, clear. They line up in tidy rows and tell us exactly where we stand, or at least that's what we'd like to believe. You know how it goes. The size of the house, the number on the paycheck, the digits in the retirement account, how many followers, how many steps, how many books read this year. These things are easy to track, easy to compare, easy to point to when someone asks, "How's life going?" But let me tell you a story, one that took place not in a corporate office or digital dashboard, but in a dusty little monastery tucked behind a rice field in northern Vietnam. There was a young man, a bright, ambitious fellow, who came to see an elderly monk, hoping to understand how to live a good life. He carried a notebook filled with goals and checklists. When he sat down, he asked, "Master, how do I know if I'm doing well?" The monk simply smiled and asked him, "Do you enjoy your morning rice?" The young man frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" And the monk replied, "Everything." You see, that monk was pointing towards something beyond metrics, something softer, subtler, but infinitely more valuable. How you feel in your daily life, how much joy there is in the ordinary, how fully your heart is present, not just your calendar. But in our modern world, those things are hard to prove. You can't show someone a graph of your peace of mind. There's no app that can chart the quality of your laughter or the gentleness of your thoughts when you lie awake at 2 a.m. Instead, we're taught to reach for what's visible, quantifiable, celebrated, and so we work harder, push further, build bigger, not always because we need to, but because it's what the world claps for. In Buddhist tradition, this is called the pull of the 8 worldly winds: praise and blame, gain and loss, fame and disrepute, pleasure and pain. They blow us in every direction if we don't anchor ourselves in something deeper. The Buddha didn't say these winds were bad, he just reminded us they're fickle, and if you tie your peace to them, you'll never stop chasing or fearing. So let me ask you gently, what are the winds blowing through your life right now? Are they guiding you or pulling you away from what truly matters? I once met a retired school teacher who lived in a modest apartment in Ohio. Nothing flashy, no luxury car, no massive estate, but her home was filled with warmth, handmade quilts, photos of students from over the years, fresh cookies on the table. She looked at me and said, "I never made six figures, but I made every moment in my classroom count." And you could feel it, that quiet, steady joy that had taken root in her bones. She wasn't performing happiness, she was living it. Compare that with someone I knew years ago, a wealthy entrepreneur, always upgrading, always scaling. He had built an empire, but when we spoke, his voice trembled. "I can't remember the last time I felt still," he said, and the saddest part, he'd forgotten how to stop. The truth is, you can build an impressive life on paper and still feel like a stranger in your own days. So what if we asked ourselves new questions? Not how much do I have, but how do I feel when I wake up in the morning? Not what's my title, but am I kind to the people I love? Not am I winning, but am I well? Because here's something worth remembering. The most valuable parts of life are often the hardest to measure, like the quiet pride of watching your grandchild take their first steps. Like the way your heart softens during a sunset you didn't plan to see. Like the peace that comes when you no longer feel the need to prove yourself just to be. As we transition into the next part of our reflection, I invite you to gently hold this question. Am I using the right ruler to measure the richness of my life? Because if the things that truly matter, like peace, love, and presence, don't show up on the charts, maybe it's time to stop chasing numbers and start noticing moments. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the subtle ways we flip the very purpose of money and success upside down and how to realign with what we truly seek before it's too late. Part 3. Are you making money to live or living just to make money? Some years ago, during a visit to Kyoto, I had tea with an old man who had once been a successful banker. He was retired by then, living in a small wooden house where moss climbed the garden stones and wind chimes sang with the breeze. We sat on tatami mats, sipping sencha, and at some point I asked him, "Do you miss it? The deals, the meetings, the fast life?" He chuckled, not bitterly, not proudly, just gently. "I spent the first 40 years making money," he said, "and the next 20 trying to remember what I made it for." That line landed like a stone in still water. You see, somewhere along the way, many of us flip the purpose of wealth upside down. We begin with good intentions to provide, to feel secure, to enjoy freedom. But slowly, subtly, the means becomes the end. The house gets bigger, the vacations more luxurious, the watches more expensive, but the days get tighter, the shoulders tenser, and the laughter fewer and farther between. Let me ask you plainly, when was the last time you truly enjoyed the life your money was supposed to create? It's a hard question, and if it touches something tender in you, that's okay, because this is not about guilt, it's about remembering. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches, riches ruin the foolish, but not those who seek the other shore. The other shore isn't some mystical paradise, it's the place of wisdom, where we remember that wealth, like fire, is only useful if you know how to hold it. I once knew a woman, let's call her Claire, who had built a thriving business. She had everything she dreamed of as a child, her own office, a view from the top floor, a beautiful car with leather seats that warmed in the winter. But when I visited her, what struck me most wasn't the luxury, it was the silence, the kind of silence that doesn't soothe but echoes. She told me, "I have the life I planned for, but not the life I longed for." Claire, like so many others, had fallen into the rhythm of achieving more without ever stopping to ask why. And maybe you know that rhythm too, the rush of doing, earning, optimizing, until the soul begins to whisper, "Is this it?" The problem isn't ambition, it's unconscious ambition. When we're so busy climbing, we forget what the view even looks like. We confuse productivity with purpose. We trade presence for performance. But there's another way, and it begins with a small shift in question. Instead of how do I earn more, try asking, what kind of life do I want to live, and what is enough to support that? The word enough is radical in a world addicted to more. It requires listening inward, not just looking outward, and sometimes it means letting go of something shiny to hold on to something sacred. A Buddhist parable tells of a merchant who carried a heavy sack of gold while crossing a river. Halfway through, the waters rose, the gold dragged him down. Someone on the bank shouted, "Drop the sack," but he clung to it, whispering, "It's all I have." Moments later, he was gone, not because he didn't have enough, but because he couldn't let it go. We carry so much, not just money, but pride, identity, fear of falling behind, and sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask, what can I release so I can rise? This doesn't mean quitting your job, selling everything, or moving to the mountains. It means becoming clear on what brings you alive, clear on what you're chasing and what you're quietly sacrificing for it. Because at the end of the day, money is a tool, and no one ever built a meaningful life by worshipping the tool instead of the life. So perhaps now, as we move into the next part of our reflection, we can carry a softer, wiser question: is my success building a life I truly want, or burying the one I already had? In the next chapter, we'll explore the stories we tell ourselves about success and why even those who have it all often feel the most lost. Part 4. Not everyone at the top is having a good time. There's a strange myth we've quietly bought into, that the higher you climb, the happier you'll be. That if you just reach that next level, that title, that milestone, that final financial bracket, you'll finally breathe easier, sleep better, laugh more, live deeper. But let me take you behind the curtain for a moment. Not long ago, I was invited to speak at a private retreat, the kind held in glass-walled resorts tucked away in the hills, where everything smells like lavender and imported wood polish. The room was full of high achievers, CEOs, investors, best-selling authors. On paper, these were the winners of life. But behind the curated smiles and polished handshakes, something else was humming, a quiet, collective exhaustion. During a group circle, a man in his 50s, grey at the temples and crisp in a tailored suit, suddenly said, "I have everything I thought I wanted, and I don't know why I feel like I've lost something I can't name." The room fell still, and then, almost like water breaking through a cracked dam, others began to nod. "I haven't felt joy in years. My days are full, but I feel empty. I'm scared to stop because I don't know who I'd be without the chase." It was a room full of what author Oliver Berkman once called insecure overachievers. People who had mastered the art of success, but forgot how to feel at home within themselves. In Buddhist thought, this is the realm of Ashura, the demigod. Powerful, competitive, always reaching for more, but never quite at peace. The Ashura isn't evil, he's just deeply restless. He stands at the top of the mountain, only to realize he cannot rest there either. Have you ever wondered, those people we admire, envy even, are they truly enjoying life? Or are they trapped in a cycle of endless striving, just like the rest of us, only with nicer shoes? This isn't about judgment, it's about pulling the illusion gently apart, because when we blindly idolize the top, we forget that the view from above may look impressive, but can feel incredibly lonely. I once heard Thich Nhat Hanh share something in a Dharma talk. There is no way to success. Success is the way. And he didn't mean you shouldn't aim high. He meant that if you're not able to breathe deeply, to smile, to be at peace on the journey, then what you find at the end will never be enough, because the habit of striving will follow you there too. There's a woman I know, let's call her Jenna, who worked for decades to become a partner in a prestigious law firm, and she made it. Corner office, 6-figure bonus, business class flights. But she confessed to me one night over tea. Sometimes I wish I could just walk barefoot in the grass and not feel guilty. You see, her success had come at a cost. She had built a life of recognition, but not of rest, of performance, but not of peace, and yet, even when she began to feel the call to slow down, she hesitated. Who am I without the title? Will people still respect me? Will I still respect myself? These are the silent fears that success rarely prepares us for. Because when your worth has been built on what you do, what you earn, what you achieve, it can be terrifying to consider who you are without all of it. But here's what Buddhist wisdom reminds us. You are not your role. You are not your resume. You are not your productivity. You are a breathing, feeling, ever-changing being, deserving of rest, of simplicity, of joy, not because you earned it, but because you're alive. So let me ask you now, gently but honestly, are you climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall? And if you reach the top, would you find what you're looking for, or just a higher form of emptiness? Perhaps it's time to pause, not to abandon ambition, but to realign it, not to stop dreaming, but to ask, what kind of dream nourishes me, not just feeds my ego? As we move into the next part of this journey, we'll look at a subtle but crucial distinction. Why even the pursuit of personal growth, something good and noble, can become another trap if we forget to ask when it's time to simply be. Part 5. When self-improvement becomes another form of addiction. There's a moment that still echoes in me from a retreat I once attended in the hills of Mendocino, a quiet place where the pines seem to whisper and the fog drifts like breath over still water. It was a circle of seekers, men and women of all ages, but most of us with grey in our hair and lines of laughter and loss across our faces. We'd come to listen, to share, and in some quiet way to return to ourselves. One man, maybe in his late 60s, spoke with a kind of soft weariness. He said, "I've done the work, the therapy, the yoga, the gratitude journals. I've meditated every morning for 20 years, but sometimes I wonder if I'm still just chasing something, like I'm trying to fix a version of me that might not even be broken." His voice cracked just a little, and no one moved, because so many of us knew exactly what he meant. You see, personal growth is beautiful, empowering, life-saving even, but it can also become addictive, like a treadmill with no end, because underneath it, there's often a quiet belief whispering, "I am not enough yet." Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I'll be happy when I finally master this technique, when I lose 10 more pounds, when I can sit in perfect stillness for 45 minutes, when my income reaches that next threshold, when I finally heal this old wound?" And the tragedy is, by the time you get there, the finish line has already moved. This is what some teachers call the deferred life plan, a promise that joy is waiting just a little farther down the road. But joy, like breath, doesn't live in the future. It only ever lives right now. The Buddha often spoke of the middle path, the sacred space between indulgence and denial. But in our age, maybe we need a new kind of middle path, a path between becoming, because if we're always striving to improve, when do we ever just sit down and rest in who we are? I once heard a Zen teacher say, "Enlightenment is not becoming perfect, it's becoming intimate with your own nature." That landed in me like a soft bell, because maybe the real transformation isn't about polishing yourself into some ideal version, but simply befriending the person you already are. Let me tell you about a woman named Ruth. She was in her early 70s and had been on the spiritual path for decades. She'd studied with gurus in India, done countless silent retreats, followed every diet, read every book, and yet one afternoon, as we sat under a sycamore tree, she said something I'll never forget. "I spent my whole life trying to become a better version of me," she said, "but I forgot to love the version who started the journey." Isn't that something? It reminds me of the story of the traveler who wandered for years in search of a sacred tree said to bring peace and joy. He crossed deserts, climbed mountains, suffered storms, and one day, exhausted, he sat down to rest and realized the tree was beside him all along. He had passed it dozens of times, but never stopped long enough to sit beneath its shade. In your own life, how many sacred trees have you walked past, eyes fixed on the horizon of what's next? The great irony is that self-improvement, when untethered from self-compassion, becomes another disguise for self-rejection. It whispers, "You're not there yet," again and again, until you forget where here even is. But you, just as you are, weary or hopeful, unfinished or content, are already worthy of love, of breath, of stillness, not someday, now. So here's a question I'd like to offer you, gently, without judgment. If you stopped trying to become someone else for just one day, what would it feel like to simply be with yourself? What would it be like to set down the books, the podcasts, the plans, and just take a walk, barefoot, no agenda, no fixing? Would your soul sigh in relief? Would your inner child look up, wide-eyed, and say, "You finally noticed me"? Maybe the true goal of self-growth isn't to become someone new, but to return to someone true. As we prepare to enter our final part of this journey, I invite you to hold this thought gently in your chest. There is no finish line worth crossing if you never learned how to dance along the way. Next, we'll explore the small but powerful practice of presence, those everyday moments of stillness and gratitude that don't just anchor us, they awaken us. Part 6. Tiny moments of presence are where life truly happens. There's a soft kind of miracle that happens when you pause long enough to notice a moment, not to analyze it, not to judge it, but simply to be in it. It might be the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the early morning, the way sunlight filters through the curtains and lands just right on the rim of your coffee mug, the sound of your partner's breath beside you, steady and unremarkable, and yet somehow holy. And it's in those quiet fragments of time, those barely noticed, easily overlooked pieces of the everyday, that the soul often whispers, "This is it." I remember a teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh, who once said, "Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the world revolves." At first that might sound poetic, or even impractical, but pause with it for a moment, because behind those words is a kind of quiet revolution, a reminder that presence isn't something you achieve, it's something you allow. And yet in a world wired for speed, presence feels rebellious. We've been taught that time is currency, that minutes must be invested, that idle moments are wasted. But what if some of the most productive minutes of your day are the ones where you simply breathe? Years ago, I met a man named Eli. He was a widower in his 70s, soft-spoken, always with a pencil tucked behind his ear. He told me that after his wife passed, he began placing sticky notes around his home. Not reminders to buy groceries or pay bills, but gentle invitations. One said, "Look at the sky," another, "Breathe before you answer," and his favorite stuck to the mirror in the bathroom. "Are you here right now?" He said those little questions changed his life more than any grand insight ever had, because presence, as it turns out, doesn't require a mountain retreat or perfect silence. It only asks that you return again and again to where your feet are. In Buddhist practice, this is known as sati, or mindfulness, but not the trendy, app-based kind, the living, breathing kind, the kind that happens when you actually taste your food, when you hear the wind instead of your to-do list, when you hold a grandchild's hand and let everything else fall away for just a heartbeat longer. You see, presence doesn't shout, it waits. It waits patiently in the corners of our days, in the scent of pine needles, the warmth of clean laundry, the rhythm of your own heartbeat as you lie awake, not needing to do anything. But here's the paradox. If we don't practice presence, we don't realize we're missing it. because life continues, emails, errands, expectations, and we drift just a little more each day, until one day we wake up and decades have passed. So how do we begin again? Not with pressure, not with guilt, but with one small moment. Take 30 seconds, even now if you like. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. Notice the air touching your skin. Let your gaze soften, not on a screen but on the space around you. Think of one thing, just one, that you're quietly grateful for. Not grand, not impressive, just real. Maybe it's your breath. Maybe it's the fact that you've lived long enough to sit and listen to words like these. Maybe it's simply the knowing that presence, true, nourishing presence, is always one breath away. There's a story in the Buddhist tradition of a student who asked the master, "What is the path to enlightenment?" And the master replied, "Chop wood, carry water." The student, confused, asked, "And after enlightenment?" The master smiled, "Chop wood, carry water," meaning the sacred is not found in some future moment, it's here, in the ordinary, in the repeating rhythms of daily life, if only we learn how to see. So let me offer you this. You don't need to fix your entire life to feel peace. You don't need to master presence before you're allowed to feel it. You only need to practice returning again and again to yourself, to this breath, to now. And as we begin to close this journey, perhaps we can carry one final question in our hearts. If this moment, just as it is, was enough, how gently would I treat it? Because perhaps, just perhaps, the life you long for isn't waiting far ahead. It's been quietly waiting for you to notice it all along. And so, here we are, at the quiet edge of this journey. Together, we've wandered through the gentle truths that often go unnoticed in the noise of modern life. We began with a simple but powerful question: am I trading what matters for what doesn't? From there, we looked at how easily we measure our worth by things we can count: money, status, achievements, and how the true richness of life often shows up in what cannot be measured: peace of mind, simple joys, warm presence. We asked what kind of life we're really building, a life we can enjoy, or a life we feel trapped inside of. And we peeked behind the curtain of success, only to find that even those who have it all may quietly ache for something more real, something gentler. We saw that even the pursuit of growth, noble as it is, can become another race if we forget when to pause, when to rest, when to simply be. And finally, we return to the softest of all truths. Presence doesn't require perfection, it only asks for your attention. If there is one thread that weaves through everything we've explored, it might be this: you don't have to choose between becoming and being. The path can hold both. You can grow and still rest. You can evolve and still love who you are now. You can move forward without running away from the beauty of where you are. So before we part for now, let me ask you, not as a teacher, not as a guide, but as a fellow traveler on this winding road of life, have you ever missed your own life while chasing the idea of a better one? What would it feel like to stop, even just for 30 seconds, and say, "This moment is enough"? What if the peace you seek isn't ahead of you, but already here, quietly waiting for you to notice it? Maybe today, after this video ends, you'll take a walk or sip your tea slower. Maybe you'll notice the sound of birds outside your window, or the way light falls on your hands, or the steady, faithful rhythm of your own breath. And maybe in that small act of noticing, you'll feel something soften, something return. If something in today's reflection stirred a quiet part of your heart, I invite you gently to slow down. Not forever, not for hours, just long enough to come home to yourself. Because sometimes, all it takes is 30 seconds to remember that life is not waiting for you in the future. It's happening now. May you walk through your days with enoughness and find stillness blooming in the middle of the ordinary. If this message resonated with you, I welcome you to subscribe to Quiet Wisdom. This is a space where we don't rush to answers, but rest into deeper questions together. Until next time, be well and walk gently.